the Vice President of the United States, Mr. Mike Pence. Mr. Vice President, thank you for joining us. How are you this morning?
I'm just doing great. Thanks so much for having me on Robert and Erin in the morning.
Well, we have a limited amount of time, so let's get right down to business. Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky says the Obamacare replacement bill on the House side is in a little trouble. He says there's 35 no votes and that Speaker Ryan may have to pull the whole thing. Is that legit, or is that just Rand being Rand?
We are so grateful for the growing momentum and support behind the promise that President Trump made in the election, that every Republican in Congress made, that we would repeal and replace Obamacare. And we go into tomorrow's vote with confidence that we're going to keep that promise to the American people, because, you know, guys, Obamacare has failed. Every promise that of Obamacare, when it was signed 7 years ago this week, has been broken. Remember, they said if you like your doctor, you can keep them.
Yeah.
If you like your health insurance, you can keep it. They said that cost of health insurance would go down. Every single one of those promises was broken. Every Republican in Congress committed to repeal and replace Obamacare. And what should be exciting to your listeners is in Louisiana and in Texas is that the beginning of the end of Obamacare starts tomorrow. And through this effort and through what Secretary Tom Price is doing at HHS and through legislation we'll pass this spring, we'll launch a whole new era where the American people are no longer forced to buy health insurance, but they can choose on a national marketplace between lower-cost health insurance and will let states like Louisiana and Texas and every state in the union redesign Medicaid to meet the needs of the most vulnerable.
Mr. Vice President, let me ask you, the numbers are out there that 20 million people would lose care. Are there some who are going to lose health care? How many of them, and who are these people who are going to lose care, and what do we do with them?
Well, Erin, you know, remember what President Trump called the fatal flaw of Obamacare is that it essentially ordered every American to buy health insurance, whether they wanted it or not, and or have to pay a tax penalty. And as you know, tens of millions of Americans chose to literally just pay the penalty, and other millions of Americans found a way to get excluded from the program altogether. The policy and the proposal that President Trump's advancing with the support of members of Congress lets the American people choose, and it focuses on lowering the cost of health insurance. And we do think that the Congressional Budget Office, which predicts that after a few short years, even just with this first bill, that health insurance premiums will start to go down, we really do believe that when you lower the cost of health insurance, that the Congressional Budget Office has greatly underestimated the number of Americans who will use those new tax credits to have health insurance coverage. They missed the mark last year on Obamacare with its mandates by about 8 million, and we frankly think that they're off by a very large number. I think you give the American people low-cost health insurance in the individual marketplace. You give employers the ability to offer low-cost health insurance to their employees. I think you're going to see an awful lot more Americans and American businesses choose to have health insurance coverage, and that will be a result of a powerful and dynamic free marketplace, not government mandates.
We're understanding that it's going to be kind of a 3 phases, I believe.
3-pronged was the term.
Yeah,
yes.
There's a lot of concern in Louisiana, Texas, and in our neighboring states about and probably nationwide, obviously, about the high cost of medication and drugs. Is that part of this, and how long before we'll see some relief on that front?
Erin, I'll tell you, I don't know if you were talking to the president in the last 15 minutes, but
it's odd you mentioned that. He just wasn't listening.
Well, look, I will tell you that you're number one. You're exactly right, Erin. That this is the beginning of the end of Obamacare. We're repealing the taxes and tax penalties. We're transferring Medicaid to the states. We're initiating the reforms that will achieve the goal that I just described. We're doing executive action at Health and Human Services, but in another bill, we got to do another bill this spring that'll finish off Obamacare, but also do a broad range of things to erase state lines, create a national marketplace. And President Trump has made it clear he wants to do something about the cost of prescription drugs in this country. And there's a number of reforms the administration is reviewing. We're talking with members of Congress in both political parties, and President Trump is confident that in that legislation this spring that will finish off Obamacare, will also take a decisive step toward lowering the cost of prescription drugs for every American.
On the phone this morning with Vice President Mike Pence. Mr. Vice President, let's move on to the Supreme Court hearings. How long was the hearing? 12, 14, 16 hours? How does
God bless him.
How does one human being do that and maintain his cool?
It is a rite of passage before the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I have to tell you, I couldn't be more proud of President Trump's choice of Judge Neil Gorsuch for the Supreme Court of the United States. I think the American people saw yesterday. This is a man who is thoughtful, who is principled, and I can assure you and all of your listeners that Judge Neil Gorsuch will be faithful to the Constitution of the United States and all the God-given liberties that are enshrined there. And we look forward to him finishing this process in the Senate and urge every member of the Senate to support Neil Gorsuch in confirmation as our new Associate Justice.
Amid the hysteria of Franken, Feinstein, etc., how much more finger-pointing and name-calling do you think we're going to get?
Well, it's the role of the Senate in the confirmation process historically was one of just determining the qualifications of the individual that a president nominated to the court. As you all know, years ago, notably with the nomination of Judge Robert Bork, it became something else. But we remain very confident that given the caliber and the character, the integrity, and the reputation that Judge Neil Gorsuch will soon be Justice Neil Gorsuch, and he'll take his seat on the Supreme Court. He will not replace Justice Scalia, as so many are quick to say, and the president has said many times. You can't replace Antonin Scalia, but you can succeed him, and I can assure you the president and I believe that Judge Neil Gorsuch is a worthy successor to that great jurist.